thinking that we have had in our organization in relation to the CAP package. But before doing so, I would like to come back to the last words of your president when he referred to the role of cooperatives. I will also come back to this in my speech or my presentation, but I would like to underline the importance of the cooperative movement in making overall European economy work. European agri-food sector represents the biggest industrial sector of them all. There will be no recovery, there will be no growth if there was no growth in agri-food sector. We are very motivated to do that, and for the first time we see some good signs in the CAP package that the role of cooperatives has been recognized. But there is a prerequisite for that, and that is that the cooperative movement has to maintain its own approach to the sector. It has to operate freely. It has to be able to fulfill those principles of cooperative movement that have been put forward by International Cooperative Alliance, and it has to be given the opportunity to, together with its members, to make investment, use innovation, and become more competitive in the whole of food chain and in the market. So in this respect, we have been quite worried to see these political discussions in Greece where the freedom of cooperative movement has been undermined. We have to make sure this would not happen. I would like to go through some of the main elements of the CAP. I will not go into details because your experts here in this meeting room are much better experts than I am, especially in relation to Greece. But for the next 15 to 20 minutes, I would like to take you through some of the principles that we have come across in our work. And I hope that they reflect also at least some of your thinking, if not completely in line also with the Greek position. We all know that European farmers and agri-cooperatives have to produce more food to respond to our food security needs. And like your president said, both pillars have to aim at the same principle, to make CAP work. They may have different role in doing that. It may be that the first pillar talks about food security more than the second pillar, and the second pillar would be talking about land management issues more than the first pillar, but they have to aim at the same objective, making European agriculture a success. The problem for us is that we, parallel to the food security needs, we need to respond to challenges that are very much linked with our environment. It's about responding to global challenges like climate change. And it's about also combating the challenges in the marketplace. It's how farmers can generate more income from the market. We have to maintain viable agricultural production all across the EU, and while we do that, we have to adapt and make sure that we alleviate some of the consequences coming from, for instance, climate change. I have pointed out some elements of the CAP package, and also to illustrate some of the most relevant items for our cooperatives, I have put the color green in place to illustrate that. When we talk about additional challenges, I would like to underline the importance of the cost-price squeeze, where the cooperatives certainly can assist. It's about making farmers more competitive in the marketplace, make common supplies, buy inputs, and also make sure that we do things efficiently to our downstream industries and eventually to consumers. Also, we have to point out that the current food chain in the European Union doesn't work in a way that can be described as acceptable. We need to rebalance the food chain, and we need to make sure that the valuable work that European farmers, and especially here when I talk to you, Greek farmers, would be also reflected in the prices of the commodities that you produce and eventually consumers consume. We have to make the food chain more transparent and, let's say, get a better return from the marketplace. But now we have to ask the question whether CAP is actually responding to these challenges. Once again, I won't take you through all these items, but then I would like to point out a couple of elements that I believe that are most important for us all. First of all, the first bullet point. The European Union budget was decided about a year ago in the Heads of State meeting in February 2013. And in this meeting, the role of cooperatives and for agriculture in general was very much underlined. And in particular, it was very clearly said that there must be no land that will be taken out of production when we talk about, for instance, grain. I will come back to this later. However, the main point is that despite the fact that the European agriculture had to face some cuts, in real terms, over the next 6 to 7 years, we will most probably see approximately 14 to 15% cuts in real terms. But the real surprise to many people, at least in Brussels, was that European heads of state and other institutions, especially European Parliament and agricultural ministers, confirmed the fact that European agriculture must be viable and we need to develop that in a sustainable manner. We cannot cut off resourcing for European agriculture all of a sudden. Like was explained by the previous speaker, sudden death is not an option. And clearly the allocation of funds on agriculture, at least in the eyes of the non-agricultural sector, was much, much higher than they would have seen. In this respect, the outcome is quite good and we have to be happy for that. We have some resources, budgetary allocation in place, but now we have to make most of it. It's also that the new reform introduced some elements that we can use. It's not bad news all. It's also something that we can work on, and that is especially in relation to cooperatives, once again recognition of their role, and especially when it comes to introducing new tools to enable producer organizations and their actions at the marketplace. The second point that I would like to take out of this slide is that especially the transfers between pillars, between direct payment and market management, and on the other hand, rural development, is a big question mark for us all. But then that is especially in relation of how European common policy will develop. If in one member state we have full 15% transfer from direct payment to rural development, we have member states where the same percentage will go the other direction. How sustainable is that when we are aiming for a common policy framework? Then I would like to show you only a few items that we characterize by calling the new support scheme. And what is of importance is that the column in the middle, there are only very few mandatory measures that go across. Most elements are voluntary and they are up to member states to choose from. And this is especially the role of your ministry, together with the farming organizations and your government, your parliament, to come up with endorsement how this would be organized in Greece. But this also creates a question mark when it comes to common policy.